Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Rest, and in this video, if you saw the teaser, this is gonna be the One Punch Amara build. This is my personal favorite melee Amara build I've ever put together. It's gonna allow you to literally melee every single enemy in the game. You're never gonna have to shoot a weapon, and on top of that, you're gonna be able to do every single piece of content in this game with this build. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can play a melee Amara, but I personally think this is probably one of the best, and like I said, it's at least my favorite. It kind of incorporates a lot of different things together that you might not think of and puts it into this one build, and it is absolute destruction. Now, I know melee builds aren't for everyone, but even if you don't like melee builds, you can probably get something useful out of this video due to, as you see in the background gameplay, us just annihilating bosses. But as always, if you want to try these builds out for yourself, my save files are located in my Discord channel if you'd like to download them. The link for the Discord will be in the description. If you download the build and enjoy the video, find it helpful in any way, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It really helps me out and helps our community grow by getting these videos out there. But without further ado, let's jump right into this crazy build. All right, so starting off, we have our very vicious looking Amara right here. She's got all the blood splatter on her because she is going to be right in enemies' faces, just punching enemies, doing splash damage, and just blowing everything up. So the first weapon we have is a Psycho Stabber. It can honestly be whatever level. It doesn't have to be level 72, but we have the Anoint. While under 50% health, you deal 150% bonus radiation damage. Now, before I even go into other weapons, let me explain why I'm using this Anoint. If you don't know, URAD actually applies to everything in the game, and yes, it did recently get nerfed, but it's still very, very good. So your melees now are doing 100% bonus radiation damage than what it just normally would, plus it's the Psycho Stabber, so you get 340% more melee damage because it's the best melee weapon in the game. Now, to make URAD work, I'm actually going to be running a front loader. Of all things, you see a front loader with a melee build, which is hilarious, but this is going to reserve 60% of your max health, so you can actually proc URAD, and this also comes with Anoint. After you use your Phase Slam, melee damage increased by 200%. Now, if you watch my last video, Fracture Needle Amara, you'll know that Fracture actually procs this Anoint. So whenever you get in situations where it's a tankier enemy, you can throw Fracture out to proc this Anoint, and you're going to be doing more melee damage, plus URAD's always going to be proc, and you can just obliterate enemies with just that alone, but that's just the beginning. Now, the other weapon we're running is a Face Puncher. If there is a ranged target that you can't hit, like a flying target or anything, you can use the Face Puncher to actually do damage to it. You don't have to if you don't want to, but since this is a overall all-around melee build, I'm going to include the Face Puncher because it is a melee weapon. Now, we have a Guardian Angel right here. If you don't know about this thing, it's literally absurd. It's probably one of the best weapons in the game, not for its damage capabilities, but for the fact that whenever you are far away from enemy, you get increased damage. As you see, it's this weapon damage increased based on distance. This actually increases all your damage on everything. So kind of like how URAD increases everything, this also increases everything. So this means on something like the Fish Slap right here, which is a grenade that does melee damage. So it's taking all your melee stuff and putting it into this grenade, and you can get a level 72 Mayhem 10 version now, which is just absurd. You can throw it from afar while holding the Guardian Angel, and your melee damage is getting buffed even more. And this is also applying URAD as well, because like I said, it does every bit of damage, and you could just destroy everything. As you see in the gameplay, I'm just one-shotting like lower tier bosses. I could just spam grenades and just destroy raid bosses. It's ridiculous how powerful this combo is. And even if you don't like melee builds, this is what I was talking about. Guardian Angel and Fish Slap paired together on almost any character, if you have a couple, skills going towards it, can just obliterate everything in the game. It is ridiculous how strong it is, and this is 100% what you're going to be using for bossing. And I also have some other Fish Slaps over here for Corrosive, Incinerate, and Shock, depending on what exactly you're going against. Obviously, Armor for Corrosive, Incinerate for Flesh, and Shock for Shields. And I have a Radiation right here. I just have this just to have on, but as you see, I have on Axe Skill in, get 50% bonus cryo damage. Now, this is actually going to be very important, but I'm going to get back to this in a second because I do have an EMP5 right here, and this is literally just to move faster. This does absolutely nothing for the build damage-wise. It's just if I want to move around the map faster, you can equip it. But as you did see, every single one of these has URAD, so it's going to be very, very simple. You're always going to be getting these benefits for every single weapon you have equipped, and you don't have to worry about anything. It's just all working in the back end, and you're getting insane damage numbers. But now getting back to the Fish Slap. So on Axe Skill, we have 50% bonus cryo damage. This is going to be good because if we pop our Fracture to proc this Anoint, we're also getting more cryo damage for our melee, because this does also work for melee. But it doesn't end there. We're also going to be running a Corrosive Stone Static Charge. this is going to imbue your melee with corrosive damage, and when you slide, you build up a static charge that is also going to make your melee do shock damage and actually chain like a brainstormer. Really good for at clear. This is also giving you more cooldown rate, area effect damage, and melee damage. And as of right now, we're doing corrosive shock, cryo with the anoint, and then radiation with the anoint up here. And then if you actually go over to the skill tree, we're going to be running soul fire with illuminated fist, which also allows us to do incinerate damage with our melee. So we're doing all 5 elements with our melee. Literally every single element in this game, one melee is doing all 5, and you're going to be able to insta kill everything, because most of the time in melee builds, you have, soul fire going to get shot, you can't really take it down. But since you have every single element, you don't have to worry about any of the health bars, shields, armor, or flesh, because you're going to be able to just one shot through all of them because your melee is doing so much damage. It is crazy good, and it gets even better later on when we get into the skill tree. But then finally, we have a breaker class right here, which, if you don't know, Amara gains damage reduction. This bonus is based on the distance to the enemy. The closer the enemy, the greater the bonus. So you basically get up to 29% damage reduction, which is pretty good, but this is also giving you more splash damage, melee damage, and grenade capacity. The grenade capacity, I think, is actually very good for this build, because you can spam more fish slaps, and at level 72 you get 7 extra grenades. So that is just an insane amount of fish slap grenades you can throw everywhere. And again, the way you want to play this is you can melee literally every smaller enemy in the game, or like medium-sized enemy. When you get to bigger enemies, throw a fish slap, you're going to insta kill them. You can insta kill pretty much any boss with fish slap, and then raid bosses, you just spam fish slaps and you kill everything. And then you can use face punch for range. Just make sure if you're using the fish slap to have the guardian angel in your hand. But getting over into the skills, I'm gonna start in brawl, because that's kind of our melee focus skill tree, and also the new skill tree. We'll get into that one next. But we have 5 points of root to rise, which is buffering our max health by 40%. So our shield is reserving 60% of our max health, so we're getting 40% of that back essentially as health. It's not obviously all the health we're getting back, but it still is going to reserve that 60%, so you still have URAT proc, but this is just going to make you a little bit more tanky, so you can survive more. Now, speaking of tankiness, we have 5 points in help at hand, so we get 40% damage reduction whenever we use our action skill. That paired with our breaker class mod is going to give you an insane amount of damage reduction, and also when we use our action skill, we're going to be proccing all those anoints that I was talking about as well, and we're going to do a ton of melee damage, and you can just go in on enemies. Now, 5 points in arms deal, so you get 20% more splash damage and 40% splash damage reduction. This is an okay survivability skill, but this will help out with one of our skills later. But then 1 point in fire center, so this is going to give you 100% more melee damage and 75% more melee range whenever you use your action skill, which is really good. But if you didn't see, the breaker class mods also can give you another +1, so you will get 2 points in it, which is 200% more melee damage, which is really good for this build, obviously. Now, 3 points in mindfulness, so whenever we take damage, we're going to get some more movement speed and short regeneration delay. This is going to be our main form of survivability with this build, based on damage reduction, and this just movement speed and just our health alone. You're not going to really have sustainment going on with this build, but this build is meant to just get up in people's faces, tank a lot of damage, and just punch everything. So that is what we're going for. And then on top of that, we're going to do one with nature to get even more max health, which is nice, and 40% elemental damage reduction, whatever our axe skill element is. So that is going to be incinerate, which isn't bad, because if your shield goes down, you do have soul fire to help block some of that incinerate damage on you. Then I have 1 point guardian angel, so if we ever do die by being up in everybody's faces, you can immediately get back up, restore 50% of your health, and this has a 120-second cooldown. So you can kind of play around this, and you can pretty much become invincible, because if you just wait for that cooldown, you're always going to be able to get back up no matter what. And Guardian Angel works really well for this, because sometimes you can't just get caught out in the open. A barrel might explode on you since you're literally up in the enemy's faces, and this can get you right back up. Just it kind of negates a bunch of just the random shenanigans that can get you down, which is really nice. Then 1 point blitz is going to give another 100% more melee damage, and this is also going to allow you to dash when you melee an enemy, and if you kill an enemy with that dash is immediately reset. If you don't, it has an 8-second cooldown, but you're gonna pretty much always be immediately killing enemies, so you can just dash melee, dash melee, dash melee, dash melee, dash melee constantly, because you're going to be one-shotting things, and it's super fun. You can kind of see it a little bit in the gameplay I showed at the beginning, but trust me, it is so fun once you get this working for you. But even alone, the 100% melee damage is also really good. Now, getting into the enlightened force, this is her new skill tree, but we have 5 points to trust yourself, so if your shield armor goes down, you get some benefits: reload speed, charge speed, weapon slot speed. I'm kind of just using this to get to the bottom, but 5 points and no mistakes in nature to get 65% more melee damage whenever you apply status effect. We're using all 5 elements when we hit an enemy, so we're always going to be applying status effects. So this is just a 65% bonus to melee damage, which is nice. 5 points in heavy range, so we get more projectile speed and splash damage. This is also pretty good. We're using to get down to the bottom, but the splash damage will help out. Then 1 point combo breaker, so every melee enemy, we have 20% chance to reset our cooldown. We're not going to have much cooldown with this build, so having this, you know, if you need to use your anointment to get some more melee damage, this is going to allow you to melee enemies and have a 20% chance to just immediately reset it. It's actually resetted a lot for me. When playing with this build, I've actually been shocked with the amount of times it actually has reset, so be sure to take 1 point in this. Then 5 points Jolt for freedom, so whenever we use our axe skill, we get more melee damage. This works really well with our shield anointment, so we get even more melee damage, which is nice. Then 5 points in burn both ends, so whenever we take damage, we're going to get a 5% stacking damage bonus, which can stack to 15 times. So this is going to be a 75% damage increase, which is really, really good. Everything else is buffing our damage. This is also going to be buffing it. And if you remember, we're taking mindfulness, so not only we get damage when we take damage, we're also getting movement speed, which is really, really cool. Now 3 points in body and mind, so whenever we kill an enemy, all our melee attacks are going to do splash damage. So this is where all the splash damage bonus is going to come in. So now we're going to be doing all 5 elements with the melee, plus doing splash damage with our melee, which is also getting buffed by a bunch of other splash damage bonuses. And you can already see how you're just going to be able to one-shot everything. Like, it's ridiculous. But then 1 point in clear the mind, so whenever we kill an enemy, every single element that we do is going to ignore enemies' elemental damage resistance. If they're immune to it, it won't ignore it, but if they're resistant to it, you're going to ignore it. So since you're doing all 5 elements, all 5 of those elements are going to resist and be doing max damage no matter what the health bar is. You know, if it's health, armor, or shields, you're going to be doing max damage with all 5 of those. Instead of, for example, only having cryo and corrosive doing good damage to that armor, you're also going to have all your other, you know, incinerate, shock, and radiation doing max damage to that armor as well. And this, again, applies for all 5. So it's all the health bars are getting that exact benefit. It is crazy. It is super, super strong. And you literally don't have to worry about any resistance whatsoever. Then in Mystical Assault, I had 3 points left over. So I just put them in fast hands if I ever need to swap weapons. And then Fist of Elements, 3 points of steady hands, so we get more handling and accuracy. Handling can be good for this. Accuracy doesn't matter because you're not going to be shooting. But 2 points in anima, so we get more status effect, damage duration. This again doesn't really matter. But the skills that do matter is Illuminated Fist, so we can convert whatever melee damage we're doing into our axe skill element. Again, that will be Soulfire, so we have all 5. And then 5 points of Tempest, so we can buff all our elemental damage, which in return will also buff our melee damage because all our melees are doing elements. Now, you do have access to all of the axe skill elements, so again, if you're going against, you know, a corrosive target, you can swap to Blight Tiger, so your melees do corrosive, and you can swap over to a corrosive fish slap and put the Guardian Angel on, and you can, you know, boss with that. But just as the overall build, definitely have Soulfire on with this exact loadout over here to do all 5 elements, and you're going to be able to literally one-shot every single enemy in this game. But that is going to do it for the One Punch Mara build. Like I said in the beginning, I know melee builds aren't for everyone. I personally don't enjoy melee builds as much as gun builds, but they can be super fun, especially when you get a build going like this. So if you don't like melee builds, again, I would recommend trying this one out, especially at least the Guardian Angel Fish Slap combo, because it is insane the amount of damage that you can put out with that combo. But like I said in the beginning, if you do want to try it out, it is in my Discord channel, which is linked below. So be sure to hit over there and download it. And also, if you just want to hang out, we got a growing community. I've actually recently updated the Discord as well. So if you guys just want to chill there, play with people in the community, trade some gear, that is the place you do it. But anyway, that's going to do it all for me. Let me know what you guys think about this build in the comments below. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.